Hello, Delegate Wranglers. Here we are again, back with you on a Tuesday afternoon. Hello, Dom. How are you?
Good afternoon, my friend. How are you?
I'm not too shabby, to be honest. Not too shabby. I've just half told Dom a secret there, but I can't tell him the full secret. But I'm going to be telling you all pretty soon. So watch this space. But it's a good one, isn't it, Dom? What you know, anyway.
Oh, is this about your glasses?
Yeah. The glasses might make a debut next week, to be honest.
Oh, really?
They
That
might make a
soon?
debut. Yeah, went to
So,
Specsavers, need glasses.
yeah. So Neil has now reached the age where glasses are mandatory, but it's only to try and make him look intelligent.
28. Who thought you'd need glasses at 28? Hey, who knew?
Really?
Anyway, yeah. So we're here again, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Here again with another fantastic masterclass. This time with the fantastic Natasha from Expocast, who's going to be giving us a masterclass on recruit, retain, and rebuild. I kept saying to myself, recruit, retrain, rebuild, and I was like, no, it's retain. So I'm looking forward to that. You know Natasha quite well, don't you, Tom?
I know her enough to know that this is a good one, and I'm delighted that we finally managed to get her on because I think I've been hounding her for about a year.
Yeah, this is like a really hot topic, topic at the moment. You know, we get lots of jobs advertised on the Delegate Wranglers and all our channels. So this is going to be something that we're going to learn from, and everybody going to be learning from for employees and employers as well. So it's going to be super useful. So I'm going to really look forward to it. Anyway, Dom.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I was so keen to get her on, because it is such an important topic, especially after the events of the last couple of years. And Natasha's really active on LinkedIn and TikTok. If you're on there, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But she's the one that I really wanted to make sure we got to do this subject because it's really important, and she knows a lot about it and is very outspoken in some ways about this subject. So it's going to be a good show.
Fantastic. So, as usual, Dom, where can people watch us?
As ever, we are live on Facebook, on Neil's profile on LinkedIn Live, and of course on @the Delegate Wranglers on YouTube. And we would really appreciate if you are watching, just to say a quick hi in the chat. We will try and get through all of the comments that come in. We will try and make sure we say hello or shout out people who are watching at home or offices or wherever you are. We know, for example, Tom Morley is watching from his hammock live in West London somewhere. So good afternoon to you, Tom. And of course, please do follow all of the Delegate Wranglers social media channels on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, and on LinkedIn. Just search @the Delegate Wranglers on all of those channels. It's like I don't do this every week.
I know.
Just search @the Delegate Wranglers on all channels, and you will find them.
I think we're gonna have to pre-record that bit, Dom. This is a regular. This is getting a regular thing now. Not like me, super professional. Anyway, Of course not. So, as always, we are proud to be sponsored by Melia Hotels, International Hotels, and Inside by Melia. And as usual, we have a little snippet of a video. Watch this one, guys, and tell me you just can't wait to be at this hotel. Wow. And I'm sure you'll agree that looks amazing, that place. And the people from, our good friends at Melia and Inside, I'm not sure they've read the small print of the contract that me and Dom need to go and experience all the hotels featured on the show. Is that right, Dom?
I think it's us and any guests we have on for that season, isn't it? I think we should just take everybody and go
us
and
and
have
all
a
the
party.
guests. We'll just
especially
go.
that one. I know you avoid trying to pronounce where that one was, but we think it's Koh Samui.
Koh Samui. Anyone in the chat room tell me how you say it? Koh Samui. I think Samui. Anyway, fantastic place, whatever it is. Thank you to Melia Hotels for that. So, Dom, on with the show. Thanks to everybody tuning in on all the channels. If you've got any questions or any comments, please send them in or let us know where you're watching from. It's always good to know where you're tuning in, and any of the situations you're currently in yourselves with regards to this subject matter. So without any further ado, I am going to introduce Natasha. Hello, how are you?
Hi. Yeah, I'm really well, thank you. I'm really well. It's as Dom said earlier, I guess it's been a long time coming. It's really, I'm really chuffed and excited that you wanted me to join you today. So yeah, really good.
No,
how are you?
Thank you. Really good. We're really good.
Very nice to have you here.
Dom's all right. Yeah, we've been wanting to get you on for a while, and finally glad that we made it happen this season. So, and I've got to say, it's absolutely brilliant timing as well in terms of, the market, the job market and the employment market, and how difficult it is for employers at the moment to recruit staff. So before we crack on, do you want to tell us a bit about, the company you work for, Expocast, and how you got there and what your role entails at the moment?
Yeah, sure. So Expocast we actually launched the business a week before we went into a pandemic. So it was the first week in March 2020. And we thought, hey, now's a great time to launch a recruitment agency in the events industry. It was something that we'd obviously been, planning and prepping for about 3-4 months. And we were, psyched up. And then, the pandemic hit and we went from, we had roles in our first week, and then in our second week we had 0 roles. It was a bit of a shock to the system. But I guess what that really made us do is think very differently about how we were going to brand the business, and it gave us time to really look at our USP and what, we weren't just setting up a company. What did we really want to achieve? What were our values? And we just had the opportunity, because everything was online, to just be really engaged with all of our potential client base for the future and just offer a different level of consultancy that we could never do before. And I guess over the last 2 years, that's really helped us get to where we are today. So, every cloud has its silver lining and what have you. So now we are, as everyone else is, inundated with vacancies. But Expocast, we're very niche. So we recruit very specifically for the exhibition and conference industry. So of course, your shows, your galas, your hosted one-to-one meetings, your awards, they kind of all fall under the umbrella of conferences and exhibitions. So that is generally what we do. So our client base falls into 3 categories. You have the exhibition and conference organizers, the likes of Informa, and those companies. Then you have your venues, so the likes of Excel, BDC. We also are global as well, so we've worked on venues all around the world. And then the third client base would be the suppliers. So we actually do get to work with the AV companies and the registration companies, even the tech platforms we've got to work with as well. So although we've got variation in our client base, it all comes back down to the world of exhibitions and conferences. And we fill any role as long as it's within those organizations. So it could be a sales manager, it could be an event director, it could be a conference producer, or it could be a finance director, from entry level all the way up to C-suite. So it's really fun at the moment. It's very busy. It's very stressful. But as I was saying earlier, it's a good problem for us to have. So we're very grateful, actually, for how everything has panned out. for us.
Yeah,
so let's just go back. You started in March. What did you, when you started in March 2020, and obviously we all know what happened after that, what did you actually do? How did you start a company at that point?
Well, we didn't actually know we were heading into a pandemic. So we were although we had obviously been told about China and what was going on, we completely buried our head in the sands and said, yeah, it won't affect us, stupidly. So I think basically what we did was we did try and pivot to the virtual side of events. So any of our clients that started launching or transitioning over to virtual events, we tried to jump on that bandwagon with them and provide the staff to help do those virtual events. But actually what we did as well was we learnt and we sat on all the demos of the virtual platforms so we could become specialists in those areas as well as. And we went and worked. So, for example, I worked for a company called Health Tech. They're called Giant Health Tech. So I went and sold sponsorship for this virtual trade show / conference. So I could understand how recruitment had changed. And I was obviously trying to make some money because we weren't billing anything. So it worked well. We just positioned ourselves amongst the industry in a way that we could continue learning, pivot in a way with the virtual and the tech that was being introduced. So basically we weren't recruiters. We just did what was needed at that time, I guess. A lot of people were saying, get out the industry, go and work in IT. They're looking for loads of people at the moment. But once you're in this industry, it's so hard to get out. And, so I'm glad we didn't listen and we stuck it out.
It's been quite the ride, hasn't it? The last couple of years, and we've all had to learn to adapt and help people through this period, and then come back fighting. And people remember, how helpful you've been, and what you're all about, and see your true colours. I find when the going gets tough. So, yeah, completely agree with you about the last couple of years. It's been wild. Yeah. So, shall we move on to your masterclass section?
Absolutely,
Natasha.
Yeah. Let's go for it.
I know you've got some slides. Here we go.
There we go. I think it's worth noting that I am coming very much from an agency perspective. And I guess what the information that I've included today is very much my experience and what I'm noticing from all of our client base and all of our candidate base at the moment. So hopefully that will just give a bit of an insight as to what's happening across the board. So there's so much detail you can go into, but obviously I've tried to keep it as short and sweet as possible today. So first of all, the things I'm going to cover is you've got just what page can you see at the moment, guys? Front page. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
So I'm going to cover off the recruitment snapshot. So what does that really look like in a nutshell? And then we're going to look at understanding recruitment and go into a little bit more detail. Then we're going to look at the current market, what we're up against at the moment, what the candidates are saying, what they're demanding, and how as a company or a business we can adapt to that. And then looking at the retention side of it as well. The retention is all part of the recruitment process, and I'll keep mentioning throughout this whole thing is that it's very much a cycle. With recruitment, there isn't a beginning and an end. It's constant. So we'll go through that as well today. So in a snapshot, then, this picture for me completely summarizes our experience of recruitment throughout the last couple of years. When the pandemic hit, we were on a high, and then suddenly, with no notice, it just dropped, and the world, the vacancies, the opportunities were out there were just completely gone. And in the way that the carriage on a roller coaster would loop around, that's what candidates were doing. They were almost accepting roles that were perhaps slightly more junior for them to go backwards, to be able to go forwards. And, it was this constant loop. And then we'd go into a lockdown, drop back down, and then we'd come back up again, thinking we're getting out of it. And before, it really has been a roller coaster journey, but physically, but emotionally for us all. So to me, that picture summarized it, but also it indicates that cycle of recruitment and how things do come back around again. And sometimes things do get worse before they get better. So you just got to, stay strong and keep going.
Absolutely.
Natasha, just going to jump in there. I know people say, or people said pre-pandemic, that sales roles particularly have a kind of like cycle of around 2 years, and then people will be moving on and things like that. Do you think that's going to change? I mean, obviously, it's changed with COVID and the break that everybody had, but do you think things will get back to being that, or is it still a matter of settling down at the moment?
We're in a massive settling down period, and I think it's worth noting that lots of companies are obviously trying to refill the roles of people they lost through redundancies, but a big part of the recruitment is actually backfilling now. The people who are leaving, who almost jumped into those roles at a sign of desperation. It was quick recruitment. They didn't have a chance. They didn't have options. So lots of people were jumping from one pan on fire to the next. So as you say, Neil, there is unfortunately quite a quick turnover at the moment. It has to settle down because candidates are being far more pickier at the moment, and rightly so. And I think in being pickier, they're going to make better informed decisions about the roles they're going to take next. So hopefully that quick turnover process that we're in will settle down, as you say.
I guess as well, some employers didn't get the right people as well, because they were just jumping at whoever they thought could do the job and fill the hole, plug the gap quickly. So both ways, isn't it? I guess
both ways. And I think there is this nervousness about employing somebody who is too senior for a job, and then losing them within 6 months because something else comes along that's better fitted for them. So there was a lot of bad decisions, bad hiring, but nobody can be blamed for that. Nobody had been through a pandemic before. No. We either took roles or recruited quite emotionally driven. And that's never a good place to recruit in. It can't be emotional. And unfortunately, it did become emotional.
Yeah.
It's interesting to hear what you were saying just now about candidates being more picky. I know a number of people that are looking for jobs at the moment, and they are being more selective, but also what they're looking for from their potential future employer has changed quite dramatically over the last couple of years. So looking not just at the benefits now, but is it a virtual role? Is it a hybrid role? They're things that I don't think we necessarily would have, they're terms that you necessarily wouldn't have attached to a job, certainly not in the way that we all know and understand them now. So now there's also an onus on companies to start upping their game in terms of what they're offering employees, because the candidates, as you said, are being picky and they are looking at different things.
100%. But before you can work out what you're going to offer your employees, you need to be doing your research and finding out what others are offering, and actually gathering that information from candidates. When you're recruiting, it's about gathering that data. Okay, well, what are you looking for? Is it the flexibility? But I do go into quite a lot of detail in that further along down the line.
Sorry.
But
we're forcing you to jump the gun here.
No, it's fine. But flexible working is the hot topic right now, and I'd say only 10% of my clients are insisting that people come in 5 days a week. I'd say only 10%.
You know what? I totally agree. I mean, the jobs that we get in, the number we've even had to make a different, like a choice now that is like home working or remote working. Instead of like just being northwest, southeast London, whatever, we've now got remote working because a lot of them are, or the part, there might be 1 day in the office and 4 days not.
I don't want to skip too far ahead, but that creates a really great opportunity for employers, though, because if they're now not tying themselves to a location where they're looking for the right person in the northwest, but they're just looking for the right person that can work remotely, that pool has suddenly expanded by several times.
Yes, and it has, and that's very true. But I think we have come up with a few problems with the location, in that everyone was trying to be very flexible and accommodating with the hybrid working. The 3-2 is the typical thing. 3 days in the office, 2 days from home.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now things are picking up, things are getting busier. Lots of our clients are thinking, actually, you know what? We're not sure if this is long-term now. And so what do you do with all the people that you've recruited miles and miles away? And so now I'm getting some pushback on clients who have said, actually, we are doing the 3-2 hybrid, but we still only want to recruit within like a 25, 30-mile radius because there is that risk of coming back full time. So it's still quite uncertain, but it's when you are hiring and you are looking to employ people and you're opening up that location, just be so mindful of actually what the business is going to look like in 1 or 2 years' time, because it might change. And then that could have a detrimental effect. And then you're losing people again. And then you're back to square one, having 100 vacancies to fill. So it's really important.
I'm going to let you carry on because we kind of got off topic. Let's carry on. Let's get back to your slides and let you carry on. We might do that a couple of times though. Sorry.
That's fine. So this slide here is really about how recruitment is that process, and that for a successful hire, for a successful recruitment, everything needs to be combined. You can't just do one thing without the other. You can't, you can't do your research without having a retention strategy. Otherwise, the whole thing is just pointless. So it's just looking at how everything overlaps, everything affects each other. And an interesting conversation I had with another recruiter recently. When he's presenting, he asks everybody in the room, these are all leaders and CEOs, how many people has a sales strategy? And they all put their hand up. How many people have a marketing strategy? And they all put their hands up. And then they say, how many people have a recruitment strategy? And it's quiet. And it's so true. And the irony of that is, if you speak to any successful leaders and you say, why is your business successful? And they say, it's the people. It's the people that make this business successful. Yeah. If you don't have a people recruitment strategy, how is that going to work long term? I just think we need to start thinking about recruitment very differently, because at the moment it's very reactive. We're in almost panic mode of, we've got so many vacancies. But if we can just take a step back and really look at the process and what's involved before we even start recruiting, we will save ourselves a lot of time and a lot of money, which leads me straight on to the next page, is understanding the recruitment process and what's actually involved. And I've done these in kind of like icebergs, because we're just touching the tip of the iceberg today. There is so much more we could go into detail. But when you're taking a vacancy, when somebody hands in their notice and you go, right, we need another sales manager. Quickly go out and advertise for a sales manager. Have you actually looked at the internal structure of the team, of the business? Is it a sales manager you need to replace them with? Or actually, do we need a senior sales manager? Or they were doing a lot of operations. Perhaps we should split the role in two and have a junior ops person and a junior salesperson. Because if you're so quick to go out and advertise, you get halfway down the recruitment process, what often happens is, we've actually just decided after interviewing a few people that we're going to move John from over there and we're going to get Sarah to cover this role. And so actually now we're looking for a marketing manager. And it's like, wow, okay. So I appreciate that does happen, but I do wonder how many people actually look at what vacancy needs filling. Just because a sales manager handed in their notice, is it a sales manager that you need? So it's about looking at analyzing the structure of the business, and just making sure that you are, fully prepared and ready to advertise that role. Yes.
You know what, Natasha? I recently did an exercise. We're on the Facebook Accelerator program, and we did an exercise where we had to list down all the tasks that we do in running the Delegate Wranglers, and then literally look at who should be assigned to those tasks. And I recommend any kind of entrepreneurs or anyone who's running their own business to do this, because it's super, super useful, because there's things that I'm sure Dom's doing that he shouldn't be doing, that somebody else should be doing, but he's doing them because he's always done them. But really, when you look at it really in the cold light of day, like you say, when there's if somebody leaves, there's a gap to fill. That gap mightn't be the same person. You don't need the same person-shaped gap, do you, to go in there? You might want to rearrange everything and look at it differently. And I found that was really massively helpful to me to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sometimes you might need a like for like, but as long as you've actually looked and you've decided that yes, that is, and also knowing the market, making sure that when you put a fantastic job description together, you are offering something competitive. So you need to be looking at salary surveys and making sure that when you're advertising for that sales manager role, that you are offering what a sales manager should get. And it's not just for the events industry. Look at the location. Sometimes we can fall into that terrible gap of, for an event sales manager, this is the going rate. But perhaps we should start looking at more regional salaries. Sometimes we do, but the events industry, we get quite closed in as to this is us, and we forget to kind of look outside the box. But benchmarking, knowing the salary you should be offering is so important, as well as obviously the benefits.
Is the salary like still the king these days, Natasha, in your opinion? Is it still the thing that everybody wants? Like, I just want the biggest salary, or is it more about the package, more about the way that the culture of that company is and the way they treat you? Is it more about that these days? Dom's looking nervously at his employees there.
No, we're good. I'm actually interested to hear this answer though, because again, as I said earlier, I know a lot of people looking at the moment. I've been having conversations about this exact subject, so I'm interested to hear what you say.
Yes, it is the overall package, and it is that flexible working hours. It is, what are you doing for the environment? How are you looking at sustainability? Are you a company that pushes forwards and promotes diversity and inclusion? People want to know that they're working for good, ethical companies, who they can get longevity with. But there is always going to be a question around salary. No matter how many times people says to me, it's not about the salary. It's not about the salary. Well, it isn't all about the salary, but let's face it, if you get offered a role at 30K or 40K, which way are you going? 90% of the time, they're going to go for the highest salary. Not always, but salary is still very important, especially now, across the board, 15%, inflation at the moment, all the bills are going up. It is important. Salary is important. And from when I started recruiting in the events industry about 6 years ago, we look at what a sales manager, I'm using sales manager, by the way, just as an example throughout, but the salaries haven't really increased that much until recently. I think people are really looking at that. And if a company cannot offer a super competitive salary, then certainly to push them over the edge, you need those flexible benefits as well, which we can go into more detail.
Last quick question on this subject.
And I do think culture is playing a bigger part now. Is it a decent environment to work in? I think that's hugely important. And I've seen some great examples amongst our clients of really, really strong cultures where I think there are some people would probably sacrifice a little bit of the salary for the working environment, the culture, and then also maybe location, the benefits and other things come afterwards. But I think culture is massively important now.
Yeah.
It is massively important. But
Go on.
Sorry, Neil. I was going to say, you hit the nail on the head though, Dom, when you said they would be willing to let go a little bit of the salary. It's not the be or end all, but culture is everything, isn't it? At the moment, it's what everyone wants to know.
I've seen this firsthand by our relationship with, sorry to keep name dropping Facebook again, but by going into Facebook and seeing the way they treat their employees actually in the building, it's amazing, really good. But the other point I was going to mention was, has anybody going with any kind of out there different ways of looking at this, like saying, okay, well, you're on a 4-day week, slightly less pay, but you get your life back? Is anybody going down that route?
Yeah, well, I've actually got a friend who owns her own recruitment agency, and she just told me, and she's advertised that she's made it work 4-day a week set with no decrease in anyone's salary.
Yeah.
And, that's amazing.
Wow.
It's being trialed somewhere. There's a country doing this as a nation, as a national trial at the moment.
Yes.
It's somewhere like Norway or Sweden that's trialing a 4-day working week for no less salary. And it's working. It works so well in the pilot program. They've rolled it out to, I don't think it's the whole country, but it's a lot of the country, and it's
in pilot mode,
but it is working.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I'll put a poll up about this in the I'll put a poll up in the chat as well, guys, so look out for it.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, we do cover a little bit more of that further down as well. So
okay.
I won't need to go into detail now, will I?
Sorry, we keep cutting in.
So just going back to the being prepared and knowing what to expect in recruitment. So then you've got your search, okay? And I mentioned this to you guys earlier. Gone are the days where you could just, whack out a quick advert on CV Library or LinkedIn or Indeed or wherever it is you use. Gone are the days of putting an advert out and sitting there and waiting for somebody to apply. It's just not happening at the moment. There are so many jobs on the market. We've got to make sure that our adverts are different, they're attractive, and they, as we mentioned earlier, Neil, they're selling the company. It's not always about, as a company, we need to make sure that it's a two-way thing. But even in interviews, it should be a two-way thing. The company has to sell themselves, talk about culture, talk about the benefits, talk about the salary when you're advertising. Don't hide that. It's so important. I'll bring this up again, but I was at Confex a little while ago, and I asked the audience, all the hiring managers here, who advertises their roles without salaries? And most of them put their hands up. Then I asked the question, if you were applying for a role, would you apply for a role without a salary? And they all said no, they wouldn't. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And I'm amazed.
I'm amazed at the moment still when I occasionally just flick through the LinkedIn jobs post, and I'm amazed how few companies advertise the salary that they're paying.
Especially when
there's been a lot of talk on this.
Especially when candidates have got, 10, 15 interviews, and they haven't got time to apply for a role that could be paying 20 grand less than what they're looking for. It really needs to change. I do understand why companies might not include the salaries on it. There are reasons, but they're not good enough to be, if we're struggling with recruitment, if we want a quick fix to how can we get more applications, putting your salary on that is the first thing to do.
Yeah, I think as well. I think if you're looking for a specific type of person, like of a certain experience, you may as well put the salary on there. Not a lot, but I'd say about half of our jobs come up with dependent on experience, which is kind of like the same thing, really. But it depends on what level you want. I think be more explicit about what you want, who you want, what you're going to pay, or what region. At least give some boundaries of the pay.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with including a banding if you don't want to put the exact salary on there, because maybe it depends on who applies. The role might change. Exactly. If you speak to somebody that actually has a really heavy marketing side, they could be a good fit over here. So I get that, but if we do a banding, that gives some kind of insight. So I totally agree.
Much better.
So So when you're advertising, make sure as well that you have a great referral system in place. So your current employees, you could be tapping into them and making sure that, they are looking at their community and their network of people, offering. So we offer. So if Neil, you would come to me and said, Natasha, John, my best mate, he wants a job, depending on what role we fill, we offer between £250 and £1,000 as a referral thank you. So offering those kind of incentives across your employees is really important. You've got to be using social now. You've got to be using social. You've got to be using Facebook. You've got to be using LinkedIn. Use cool things like TikTok. Obviously, depending on the role if you're looking for a finance director, I wouldn't bother too much on TikTok, right? But if you're looking for a digital marketing manager, or a social media planner, use the channels that they're going to be on. So doing your research and knowing what audience you've got will dictate where you go and advertise. But you can be making it really personal as well. So I try and do a lot of video adverts on LinkedIn. So it's just me waffling, I've got this role, but it's so much more engaging for people to watch rather than just looking at a really boring, advert or a job description. So the whole industry has done this pivot towards, virtual events, and we're all doing video calls now. You need to change the way you advertise the same. We've evolved, and so should advertising your roles. We need to evolve. I'm going to talk about that for ages, but we'll go on to the next point.
Press on.
Press on. Yeah. So the interview itself, sometimes I think, if you've done your research on the vacancy and the type of person you want, you'll know what level that is. And I think about your interview process. How many stages are you going to have? And, time is of the essence right now. I am losing candidates like flies. I have interviews set up for next week. Whether or not I'll get to next week without them withdrawing because they've got an offer elsewhere, I don't know. So if you've got an urgent role to fill, give your recruiter or your HR department your availability there and then for them to slot that candidate straight into an interview. And know the process in advance. The first stage, half an hour virtual. Second stage, face-to-face, meeting the two of us. And make sure whoever you get to interview, quite often we'll say, oh, why don't you pop in and speak to such and such, see what you think of them in the interview. Just make sure that person knows how to interview and they don't say the wrong things, they're not scaring off the candidates, and that you're kind of all on the same page. Do think of the level of role. If you're recruiting for a sales exec, do they really need to do a massive presentation on the third stage interview? Probably not. Think about what you're asking them to do. The level they're at, the experience they're having. I had somebody a little while ago ask for a second stage for them to come in with a presentation of a 100-day plan of what they would do. To me, that's just impossible. How can they do that without meeting the team, without knowing what the strategy is for the company, what the ambitions are? So I do push back quite a lot, and I say, I think this is a bad idea because of A, B, and C. So I do think recruitment managers, hiring managers really need to have their interview process nailed in advance.
You know what you're just saying there about? You're just saying about the 100-day plan. That's something the president of America, the new incoming president, has to do. A 100-day plan. What's he going to make? What's he going to make happen in the first 100 days? So maybe you can quote that back at them.
Mad, isn't it? Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
I will. And then obviously you've got your offer stage. Now this bit is the most crucial part. Your hard work of interviewing those candidates for weeks on end, and then suddenly you get to offer stage. I think, know what the candidate is worth. Just because if you've got a budget, it's not always about trying to get what is that saying? Is it a buck for your money? What is that saying?
Bang for your buck.
Or bang for your buck.
That's it. Yeah. It's not always about, saving every penny. It's about knowing the worth of that candidate. And also, if you lose this candidate, how much time and money are you going to lose trying to find someone else? That's just taken you 3 months to find this person. So really think, always put your best foot forward first and have the conversation on first interview stage about what the candidate's expectations are. Talk about salary. It's such a taboo sometimes. People get so worried about asking what the salary is in interviews. It should be a very easy conversation if you're prepped and prepared for this recruitment process. So, and don't make candidates wait for a month before they get an offer. They're not going to be available. So it's urgency, it's time. And know once you've filled the role, know what's your onboarding process, especially the virtual onboarding? You know, make sure it's slick and you can communicate with the candidate what to expect. There's no point in leaving them in limbo, and a couple of days before they're due to start, you sort of say, right, this is what's happening. You know, it's about clear communications, and, you know, making sure that they get onboarded properly, because it's so important, especially with everyone working from home right now.
Yeah.
You will have seen on LinkedIn through lockdown, but I saw some amazing examples of onboarding from companies, just in terms of making sure even that desks and chairs and laptops and notepads and swag like hoodies, pens, pads was all delivered to people before.
Yeah.
And I saw a number of people that I know that were posting when they joined new companies that just had this huge delivery of stuff. And it's such a lovely way to welcome someone that you're likely not going to meet. Well, at that point, then we didn't know for maybe 9 months.
It's so nice, and you're expressing the company's culture, and you're bringing it to life, and it is so important.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm conscious of time, so I might have to really whiz through the rest of the slides.
Crack on. Sorry,
I'm going to leave that up to you.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So really quickly, to make why should you put all the effort into doing a good recruitment process? And I just wanted to highlight some of the risks of a bad hire. So obviously you've got the employer's reputation. This industry is so incestuous. Everybody knows everyone. Everyone talks to one another. And it's very hard to get rid of that bad rep. And if you have a high turnover and if you are interviewing badly, word will get around. So it's so, so important. Obviously, the financial costs of having to recruit all the time, constant training, the impact it actually has on your customers as well. If you've not got the sales managers there or the account managers, because they keep leaving and they keep getting new contacts, that has a massive effect on your customer base. Career growth, if you keep recruiting people and they keep leaving, or you can't get the right person in, that's going to affect your personal career growth. So it actually has a knock-on effect on that. And of course, one of the biggest things, it's the office morale. There's nothing worse than, becoming friends with a team and then losing one after another. It's so demoralizing. This is pretty obvious stuff, but sometimes we just need to think, be mindful of it. And that is why we have to have that thorough recruitment process. So next slide. So the current market then, this covers some of the points you mentioned, Neil. So I've kind of put it in order as what's most popular at the moment here. So yes, flexi working is definitely the first thing candidates are asking me at the moment. And then I would say it's that salary. Right now it's a salary I've been on 35K now for the last 3 years. I really deserve an increase. Knowing what their worth is. We talk a lot about imposter syndrome. Don't let it get the better of you. You're worth this, you're worth that, you can do it. And yet sometimes you need to be flexible on salary. Yeah. Well, hang on a minute. Once in one talk, you're saying I need to know my worth and be valued. But then you're saying I need to take a 5K drop because, it just doesn't make sense. So salary is still a big thing. Progression, it's really important that when you're advertising your roles, you're talking about that career development for them, where they can go. So this is the role now, but it could take you here. And that's really important for people right now. The thing is, they've been stuck for 2 years, not being able to go anywhere. And that's it now. They're fed up of waiting. They want that progression. They want to move up. Company ethos, what people are doing for diversity and inclusion, sustainability, the company's reputation, as we mentioned, that's key. I've got candidates who will refuse to work at certain clients because of what they've heard through the grapevine. So again, it's so important. And obviously, the stability of our industry has been a big question. And we have lost a lot of people out of events. We need to entice them back in, and we need to give them that peace of mind that it's a secure job and that you're not going to be made redundant next month. It's really important.
Great slide, that. Yeah.
So the current market, so when you said about flexible working hours, it doesn't always mean a hybrid 3-day in the office, 2 days from home. It actually means a variety of things. So, flexi working hours, it could mean that you work whatever hours you want, as long as you're doing 37.5 in a week. So you might squeeze that into 4 days and it doesn't matter. So lots of companies are looking at this way of working. Then you've got the flexi split of 2-3 days, that hybrid. And then a lot of companies are looking at results rather than hours. So I hear a lot of, if such and such is hitting their KPIs or they're hitting target, I don't care what they're doing. I don't care how many hours they're working or where they're working, as long as they're hitting target. So this is results focused and not hours focused. And then, of course, flexible working isn't always just about the physical hours or where you're located. It's about making it flexible for people with maybe mental health, giving that extra support, parents offering that flexibility around childcare. So there's lots of different ways you can offer flexible working hours. It doesn't have to be a hybrid setup, is what I'm trying to get at there.
Can I give you a really great example of one of these? That one of my clients does this. So they're a big tech company. It's a company named Paddle. They operate in tech. It's a payment gateway for SaaS providers. They have a new benefit which they're getting. They've been in press. They've been in Times. They've been in all sorts of other HR related press. They have a new program called Navigate, which basically allows any one of their employees to work anywhere in the world that they want to for up to 45 days of the year. And to incentivize that, they pay the first 250 quid of your accommodation in Airbnb vouchers.
Oh, wow.
So for 45 days of the year, you can go and work anywhere that you want. You can be on a beach next to a pool. And I know quite a few of the people there that have been posting, amazing, I'm working on Paddle's new Navigate program. I'm lying on a beach, or I'm in Bangkok, or just wherever. It's an amazing benefit.
Love that. But that all comes back round to company culture, which actually comes to, do you trust your staff? This is a big thing at the moment, is trust.
Trust is huge.
Now, if you treat people with that respect and trust, it should come back. So it's, that's amazing. I love that. I've moved on to the next slide. Can you see it? Yeah, here we are. So there was just a few tips, ones which we've covered, on how to attract candidates, because it is hard. Make sure the salary is on your job ads. Make sure the benefits are clearly marked out. Make the process accessible, because don't create too many hoops for people to jump through right now, because they're so busy and they're inundated with inquiries that they just haven't got the time to do those somersaults at the moment. Also on your website, there are some big corporate companies, and I go on their website and I try and find their careers page or their jobs page, and it's a nightmare. And it's like, guys, you've got like 30 jobs and it's impossible to find them on your website. Like, what is going on? So making sure your jobs are actually accessible is key. Know your competition, make sure you're being relevant. As we said, do your market mapping and your benchmarking, doing your salary surveys, and try multiple ways to reach your audience, as we've already said. So it's tapping into your current employees, looking at referral schemes, using socials, etc., etc. We've covered quite a lot of this already. Now, retention, the way I look at it is that you will naturally retain your staff if your recruitment process starts off well at the very beginning. And it's that kind of market research that you do on candidates and what they are looking for, i.e. the progression in the company, the developments. And you need to keep reviewing that constantly in your recruitment strategy. Is, okay, well, we offered flexible working hours and these benefits. Are we actually delivering them? Are we actually, making sure that we're doing appraisals every 3 months and checking their career development? Are we actually delivering what we said we would at the very beginning? Are we looking at diversity inclusion? Are we doing enough to make sure everybody is feeling we're all equal? It's actually making the changes that you set out to do at the very beginning, making sure we're up to date with systems and the tech, and that you're providing your staff with everything they need to evolve. So for me, that might just be a quick, get it right first time, and the retention should come with it, basically.
Just a very quick question, Natasha. Do you find that, obviously, ever since I was kind of employed by people, I've been self-employed for like 20 years now, but when I was employed, you'd obviously get a performance review from your company. Has it gone like almost full circle now, almost that you can review them and to make sure you're happy? Do any of them ask about your happiness and what you want and what, the benefits that you need and the culture you need to be working in? Is it gone full circle almost now?
There is that. It doesn't happen enough, but it should. But there are things like employee satisfaction surveys that you can send out to your staff, and that should be something that happens every 6 to 12 months to make sure. That's the perfect way to find out if your staff are happy.
Yeah.
What you don't want to do is put pressure on people to complete these surveys in a positive light, because actually you're not going to get that true insight into how your staff are feeling. So yes, that is available, but people aren't doing it as much as they should. Quite often, if they're applying for 100 top best company to work for, this big pressure of, come on everyone, come on, we're going to send out a survey, make sure you fill it out. But it's whether or not they're getting that data back and going, my God, our marketing department are really sad right now, we really need to do something about that. I'm not sure, but those satisfaction surveys are there and they should be used far more often. 100%.
Yeah, good way to retain people, I guess.
Yeah, massively.
So where are we?
So that's pretty much a wrap.
Wow.
I've just gone through that really quickly. Yeah, I just went through that really, really quickly. There's so much we could go into, and I get quite passionate about it and quite heated about certain topics. But it ultimately, it's a tough market out there at the moment. There are a lot of people we need to convince to come back into the events industry. They need that peace of mind. They need that security. We need to be not sitting and waiting to hear from candidates. We need to be super proactive. I send out little clips of, they're probably awful, but they're video clips of me saying, hi Dom, my name's Natasha, I'm recruiting for a sales manager role. And I will email them videos now of me headhunting, basically, is what it is.
Yeah.
But got to think outside the box, because it's
really interesting, because I saw something on this yesterday. It was actually someone that works in sales, and I didn't mean for it to be the same company, but again, it was someone from Paddle who yesterday was who wrote a post on LinkedIn about hyper personalized approaches to people. So that making a direct and personal introduction via video or through an audio message that you send out to a potential client. So in your case, to a potential candidate or to an employer, or I would imagine as well. But the personalization of that, doing it through video, it's got to be more powerful. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a question. Yeah. If there was one thing that you would really like all companies to be doing right now, what would it be? And the same question for candidates.
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so for candidates, do you know what? It's communication. It is communication, and it's about working together. Sometimes, I think, because everyone has experienced a bit of a tough time, I think you get this kind of, this is going to sound awful, but there's this impression that, the world owes me at least this, I want this, and this. And there's a certain level of expectation and, I deserve this. And absolutely everyone's been through a really, really tough stage, but, it's no one's fault. Keep the communication lines open. Be really honest. Find yourself a really good recruiter who you can be really transparent with.
Yeah.
If you're interviewing for other companies, talk about them. That's great. Good. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, but let's be honest about it. So for candidates, it's please keep the communications lines open, because we can help you. And not all recruiters are trying to, push you into a square peg when you're a round circle. Okay. We're not all trying to do that. And for clients, it would be speed. Let's work quicker. Let's get back to candidates quicker. Let's give them proper feedback. I know there's a lot going on, but it's so important that you provide a good service to those that you're rejecting, as well as those that you're taking on, because it'll be those people that you're saying that you're rejecting that will go out and talk to others. So you've got to give constructive criticism, and you've just got to just be nice to one another, and just be honest. Honest is key. But speed for clients, if you snooze, you lose. That's my boyfriend's favorite term. And it's so true.
Yeah.
You snooze, you lose, basically. That's what it is right now.
Yeah.
I would also say for employees as well, don't just rehash the same ad that you've always done. You look at it differently and really really sell, work on selling the job, the ethos, the culture, everything, rather than just 3-4 liners and just say, here's the salary, here's the location, and expect every man and his dog to be applying for that, the right people. You've got to make it be really explicit about your culture, what you want to do, what you're looking for that role from that person, what you're going to do for them, all the things that you just spoke about, but be more explicit in the actual job ad, I would say.
Do you know, on the job ads, there's nothing stopping you from including a link on them, which takes you through to like a video of current staff talking about how amazing the culture is and how we're all one big family and we do this and we do that. So we're always telling candidates to make their CVs, jump out, more interactive, include a video cover letter. We should be asking employers to do the same thing.
We ask for quotes.
I don't know if you know of the.
Go on, Dom.
Sorry, Neil, go on.
I was just going to say, we ask for quotes as well from the person placing the job to give it some life. The reason it's brilliant to work here is, we do that as well. So
that's a great way of, actually asking your staff, how are you feeling at the moment? Are you happy with everything? And great, if you are, come and do a testimonial, because I want to put it on these job ads.
And if you're not,
I don't know if you know of the media and radio company Global. I stumbled across their recruitment video at the end of last week. If you haven't seen it, go and find it. It's amazing. They did such a good job of really selling the culture and what the job, what working there would be like.
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it.
It's so good. It's totally worth it. If I can find the link, I'll post it out and I'll send it to you, Natasha.
I will look at that. Do you know, sometimes the most simplest way of looking at a job ad is asking yourself, would I apply for this role? Like, do I find this attractive? Would it get my attention? If the answer is no, you've got to keep doing it and change it.
Do it again. Yeah.
And make it come across, like you said, like a fun environment to work, that you want to work there. Don't get me wrong, I don't mean joking and all the time, but a really nice, warm, friendly, engaging place where you can talk and you can be listened to. You know what I mean? Make the culture of your place come across that way. Try and get that across, and that might need a video.
And include the salary.
More stuff. Include the salary. Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, that has been amazing. Thank you so much, Natasha. We really, really appreciate that. I know that's going to get a lot of rewatches and forwards onto people. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, guys. Thank you.
I'm so glad we finally got you on. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Thanks, Natasha.
Thanks.
Okay, guys. Cheers. Okay, so we're coming up to time, Dom. Another great show.
Yeah, really great show. I'm really glad we finally got to do that one. It's a hot topic, and there's loads of I don't know, there's just loads of stuff to look at around recruitment at the moment. I see it all the time on LinkedIn. It's not it's not salesy posts at the moment. It's all recruitment posts on LinkedIn that I'm seeing. It's fascinating, and it's really interesting to see what candidates and employees are trying to do differently.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, guys, so we have got more. This is halfway through the run of the season, Dom. 4 left to go.
It is already.
We've got a brilliant show next week. I think if Callum can show the slide for next week's show, we have got the amazing Richard Bridge, founder of Top Banana, who's going to be giving us a masterclass on scaling up. Now, Richard obviously founded Top Banana, and I think he actually sold it as well. So it's, really looking forward to that. There's going to be a lot of information. And if anybody doesn't know Richard, he is one of the event industry's nicest guys. He's a top fella. So I can't wait to get him on. I've been pestering him about it for a while. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. He's going to be good fun as well, Dom. And next week,
forward to that one.
sorry, in the coming weeks, we've got the next few weeks coming up. We've got an onboarding for our USA group, actually. It's actually not going to be the 18th now. It's going to be the 15th. I've just realized we changed that yesterday. So it's going to be the 15th of February. Then we've got Richard, as I say, next week. We've got a back to live masterclass with Sasha Fries, which will be great, on the 22nd. So that's all about, how events are coming back and, what we have to consider, what we've learned. Sasha is, is a master of both sides of that as well. And then we got a Metaverse Masterclass with Josh King, which should be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to that. So lots and lots coming up, guys. And we're going to be at Confex just after that as well. Expect lots of announcements from us about Confex coming up on the 8th and 9th of March. We'll be there. I don't think you're there, are you, Dom? You're not there?
Not certain at the moment. There's a big question mark over it because we're not certain.
Right.
We may be, we may not be.
Okie doke. Well, fingers crossed.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it for us another week. Big thanks to Dom, Ed, Callum, from the team from Stream, Events Case for all their fantastic registration services, and of course, Melia Hotels and Inside by Melia Hotels for sponsoring this whole season. We really appreciate it. And a massive thank you to Natasha. I know you can't see anymore, but Natasha, thank you so much again for doing a great job on the show, and to everybody for tuning in. Another great show.
To all those watching, thanks for those that said hi from where you were watching. Tom, Jordan, Leslie, just a few names I can remember. And particularly thanks to Diane for my favorite message through all of this, which is after we played the video from that place in Thailand that you couldn't pronounce, Neil, she revealed that actually that's where you went on your honeymoon.
Right. And can I say in answer to that, we've been having a domestic on here saying, no, we didn't. We went to Phuket. So big tick for Neil. Big X for Diane. So
that's funny.
Stitch me up in there. So that argument will rage on. She's going to come up here on the bounce in a minute. So thanks a lot, guys, and we will see you next week for another great show with Richard. Thanks, Dom. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.